Attention, please. Eastern Airlines Flight 19, now ready for departure.
Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're entering the vacation kingdom of the world.
There's enough land here to hold all the ideas and plans we could possibly imagine. We call it Epcot. Will be our experimental prototype city of tomorrow.
Welcome to another episode of the Retro Disney World Podcast, taking you back to the vacation kingdom of the world, the way it was, and the way it is in your memories.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Retro Disney World Podcast, the official podcast of the Lake Buena Vista Historical Society. This is episode 84.5, DVC Feedback, and we'll be diving into the letters and notes and phone calls that we received from our listeners about our previous episode on DVC. But before we get to that, as always, sitting in with me this evening as we record, getting ready to go back to school already, or is actually in the school waiting for the kids to arrive, Mr. JT Kucher. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, can't complain.
Yeah, we got a few weeks, so it's pretty lonely at the school. But yeah, and summer it hit August and the temperature dropped magically. And
Yep.
It's love how that goes.
Before you know it, the pitter patter of the kids running through the halls. So
before we know it, we'll be in Florida.
that's right. Yeah, we've got 60 days to go or thereabouts, somewhere in there. And coming in from Florida, as always, Mr. Hal Bowers, who has erected a new seawall protecting the domain there and making sure that his tiki room doesn't flood in the future. So it hasn't flooded, but we want to ensure that your tiki mugs do not sail off. And he's going to be holding a dolphin watch party, I believe, at some point in his backyard, too. So
that's true. We're going to get dolphin watches for everyone so you can tell what time it is when the dolphins come.
Look at that. All right.
Or we should get swan watches too. We should do a swan and dolphin watch.
Swan and dolphin watch. That would be great. Just check your wrist and nope.
Is the
20 minutes to dolphin.
Is the wall getting taller?
It is getting taller.
And Leon's getting larger.
It's going up another 15 inches or so. So we're gonna have it's gonna do two things. It's gonna flatten the ground so that way because right now there's a big dip as it goes down in the water, and the second thing is going to be protect us from even higher tides and storms and whatnot. So it's going to be good.
Diving board, perhaps.
Well, those I don't believe are insurable anymore in the home. But yeah, a swimming pool is definitely on the horizon.
I meant on the wall into the water, are you allowed to do that?
Oh, I don't know if you can do that, but
it's not that deep, right?
There's a boat channel cut out in the middle. It's probably 13, 14 foot. You know what I should do is I should build one of those swinging contraptions like they had at River Country.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Where you grab onto it
your own
with the
boom
mast
swing.
The boom swing. Yeah. Yeah. What I want a list of the most uninsurable things at River Country, and I will reproduce those and attach them to my dock. What are the things that hurt the most people?
Yeah, if you did the a slide directly from your roof and then just plummeted 10 feet off into the lagoon, that would work.
12-foot drop off. Yeah,
right.
That's a good one.
That's
too.
fine.
Yeah.
No filtered water. That's okay.
I'd like the insurance adjuster to come out. Excuse me, sir. Is that a boom swing on your backyard?
And if you could do
you darn tootin'.
a barrel bridge with no handles or anything like that, just to try to get across the channel to your neighbors across the way, would be great. So,
yeah, we could totally do that.
Let us know if you see Charlie Tuna coming in there at all. So, but coming in from the city of brotherly love, Mr. Brian P. Miles tonight. How are you, sir?
Well, I've left the pool briefly to record a podcast.
Do you plan on going back around 11, 12 tonight? Or?
You know, I spend as many daylight hours there as I can.
I understand.
You're looking very tan.
I see my dermatologist next week just to get the AOK, the annual AOK on my skin routine here. So,
yep,
I do put my SPF 50 and 65s on out there, folks, when I'm at the pool. So.
Did they close for the night, or you're allowed to night swim?
The official hours are 9 a.m. to dusk, and dusk can be like 9:30 at night here at times. But yeah, it used to be sun up to sundown, and I think they got a few weirdos in there swimming at like 6:30 in the morning, and they decided 9 a.m. is good.
You're on like Tom Sawyer Island hours till dusk.
Yeah,
that's right.
Dusk is great. Seeing the sunset over there because the pool's next to an airport, next to a runway. So
yeah, you
get to see the sunset over the
Baron come through this week.
Yeah, we had like a vintage, pre-World War II era biplane. It was really a thing to see. But
that's so cool.
Yeah, I'm here and I'm excited to talk about all the feedback we got on the Disney Vacation Club and
so much of it. So it's been really appreciate that. So we're going to dive in. This episode's a little different because we have so much great feedback.
People really like that episode too.
It really rang and hit a lot of chords with people. We got a lot of great feedback, got a lot of information that we didn't know. We received a 700-page Bible of how DVC operates and all the things. We're going to talk about that, which was amazing. So chock full of so much information. We learned some things, and I think we can certainly talk about what we learned. So this episode a little different. That JT does not have to run out to the mailbag because this has been our mailbag. He's assembled all this together, so he's going to read a lot of interesting notes that people sent to us. So we not only got, let's see, JT, we got comments. We've got people who did their own math. There are people who they answered the question, what's the strangest place you listen to our podcast? I think we have some of those in there too.
Answers.
Yeah, great answers.
Now, I have those saved. I'd like to keep that open because we only got a few.
Oh, okay.
So I'm got a folder going with those, and I'd like to.
Let's do that. Why don't you pose the question again here, and we'll read them next month. So
yeah, we wanted to know sort of where or some places that you listen. It could be unique. I mean, or the most unique. I mean, that's a lot of people probably listen in their car on their commute or while walking or something, but. Is there somewhere unique you've actually listened to the show? And we got some good ones so far, but I will say I'm a little disappointed. I was expecting some more uniqueness, some good stories or something, but maybe the listeners will step up here.
All right.
And you can send that to us at podcast@retrowdwdw.com, or if you prefer to just tell us in a voice message, you can call our hotline and leave a message, 978-71-RETRO.
That's right.
And there's a chance if you leave a message, we'll just play your audio on the show.
Yeah, it's for JT to read too, so that way.
Yeah, I stutter. And
So a feedback episode, comments episode, whatever you want to call it. So JT, I know you are the master of ceremonies, the MC tonight. I'm going to hand it over to you, and we'll be here to comment and
we're happy to read some too.
Yeah, so take it away.
Yeah,
JT.
I might get tired here because just some fun facts. I don't have a total on the emails, but in an 11-point font on a Google Doc, we netted 14 pages of emails and notes and things like that, and we tried to get them all. So if we missed you or whatever, apologies on that. But I think one of the things that this did was it struck a lot of people because. Mostly owners, I would say. We got a lot of responses from people that are current members or owners, whatever you want to call that. And I attribute the timeshare vacation club aspect almost like as touchy as an extended warranty. You have people that are very, very adamant on buying those on everything. Then you have people that are the complete opposite. And you always hear success stories. You always hear, I never use it. It goes both ways. So we kind of went on the way of like, none of us are owners. I mean, total transparency there. But we also went into the history and the facts and all that on the previous episode if you haven't listened. Our ignorance did get us some responses that I thought was interesting. And then we also got a lot of personal stories here on ways that it's either worked out or the reason that people think it's going to work out in the long run for them. So we're going to start off here with Patrick. Patrick wrote us in and he says, I very much enjoyed your recent podcast on the Disney Vacation Club. As someone that's rented points in recent years for multiple trips, I too have crunched the numbers on whether or not to buy into it. While many think this form from the perspective of an investment, that's a word some use in terms of their buy-in to DVC. I thought one context would be not to look not only at what an early buyer would recoup, but Disney-wise for their investment, but to also consider what the investment could have done in the market over that time. So he went deep here. This sounds like a guy you would like, Todd. I believe someone mentioned one of the early packages was approximately $11,000 in 1991. I plugged that number into an investment calculator, which estimated that an $11,000 investment in 1992, assuming compound gain per year of 9.3%, would net you an investment value of $173,250 in May of this year. I thought this might be worth considering when you're asserting relative uses of that money over time.
You're right, JT. It hits me because, as I said in the previous episode, we talked about money and percentages and all that, and that is amazing. And you had in the DVC points that you have spent in that period of time doesn't get the full. Every year would be a different amount, but that just goes to show the value of that money over time. And I think what somebody has to do when saying, "Oh, well, I got my value." It's the value that you perceive. It's the value that you enjoy. The value of going there for the 11, 20 years, or what did he compute? 1992 to now. So yeah, almost 30 years. The value of that and versus the value of the money versus the value of the fun somebody would have had between going there. Those are two different values that people put different money on and put different thoughts on. And I think it's different for everyone. I think you guys know where I sit. I want the flexibility too. So.
And we will tackle that tonight.
What's that?
I said we'll tackle that tonight a bit as we read more of these responses. But JT, you did skip the one, my favorite, the first response we got, who said, excellent podcast episode on DVC. I thought it was humorous when you said it was not your intention to make fun of DVC owners, and then you proceeded to do so. Now, what I think is funny about that is, we got, I don't know what it was, you said 14 pages of responses here. That was the only one that in any way indicated we were guilty of some maltreatment of DVC owners, because I think we were pretty careful to try to be respectful and present our side. In fact, there's a lot of emails that say that. And, we learned from their feedback. So,
yeah, I will say what the owners that did write in and gave us some new information on it. It certainly gives a new light into the way that people are utilizing or the money they spent. Some people worked out very well from a monetary perspective. Other people didn't work out so very well and they sold it. But yeah, in no way were we out to make fun of or poke funny. It's not for everybody. And, not having a DVC is not for everybody. So
I mean, the funny thing is we made fun of the Disney Institute people the episode before, not the Disney Vacation Club people.
That's true. We did make more fun of those.
And if you wanted to go to learn to grow mushrooms on your vacation, more power to you.
Yeah, and those people actually wrote in and said, right, it was kind of weird. We had fun, but it was definitely odd.
We did get a lot of those responses. They're like,
That's
yeah,
right.
You're right. I wouldn't do that again.
Yeah.
Can I read the next one, JT?
Yeah, you go ahead.
I just love Robert's last name. This is from Robert Copobianco, which is an awesome
His
name.
name was Lola. She was a showgirl.
He loved the DVC episode and he thought he'd share his own DVC story. It's probably different from most, he says. So he bought 180 points at the Grand Californian in 2010 because they had what he considered to be a pretty good deal at the time for $92 a point. He put half down and paid off the rest in 3 years. He was 34 years old and he was spending about $3,000 a year at Disney resorts anyway. So, okay, it gives you good. I think a lot of the things that we're finding out about are use cases. So I think setting up the use case here is important. He lives in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, which is a 2.5 hour drive away from the parks. So in there quick. But since he was born, they would take 5 or 6 3-day trips a year, in addition to full vacations there. So he's a constant, Walt Disney World guest and continued to do that as an adult. And since they were spending that much money there every year, he just looked at it as prepaying, knowing that the room rates went up every year. He said, I've never stayed at the Grand Californian, but I've stayed at all the Walt Disney resorts and Vero Beach. He said, most people say they have a problem booking when they're in the 7-month or less window. But he finds as long as you're persistent and flexible, you can get what you want. His favorites are the Grand Floridian, the Riviera, the Polynesian, and what is OKW? Oh, no.
Old Key West, the original.
Oh, Old Key West, the original. Thank you. Now, this is interesting. I think the class of room that you stay in as we go through these letters also varies quite a bit. He says he mostly stays in studios, but they'll get a 1-bedroom every once in a while, and he's been upgraded, I guess, for free to 2 bedrooms many times. Says as far as kitchen use, my wife cooks all the time at home, so we never use the kitchen for dinner, but when his mom was alive, she would make dinners often. So there you go, full dinners. He said they'll usually make eggs and bacon and toast in the morning, and I always choose to make a cocktail for the trip and bring the ingredients for that drink and set up a bar in the kitchen for drinks every night. I love that idea.
Well, it's really interesting. We asked in the previous episode, did anybody cook there? We had talked about I think
roasting a turkey.
Yeah. And I think what we're hearing here from him too is that if you have the option to be there for 2 straight weeks, it's not a vacation where you're going down and you need to be in the parks every day. Not going to the park was a cool thing to do, and just hanging out at the pool is a cool thing to do. And we're going to make dinner because it doesn't make sense. So it does change the dynamic of a vacation where you are going somewhere that you consider a wonderful place to be and another place to be rather than being at home. And I'm going to bet you there's some people who go down there and just wind up working too. So I'll just work
especially in a 1-bedroom. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like the plot twist here coming up in this letter, Hal, because I relate to it much.
COVID changed a lot of things. We were AP since the beginning, but they gave it up since COVID. With Genie and Lightning Lanes, we chose not to do it again. At 47, we don't miss the parks nearly as much as we thought we would, and we definitely don't miss the $1,000 per person expense. They miss the freedom to go wherever they choose. It's like now they do resort trips, swim in the pool, go to the gym, choose a resort restaurant for dinner, go to Springs, because, having to have reservations and the cost of tickets is and the pre-planning involved is just crazy now compared to as it was in the old days. And he says they'll do 1 or 2 extra hour event tickets per year to do a few rides. So probably like, the Halloween events or the Christmas events. He stayed at the Grand Floridian the first week of the reopening. No parks were open, just DVC guests. And he said it was crazy that you could walk the whole resort and not see another guest.
This will be an interesting theme that will repeat, because when I was reading the first 3/4 of his email, and he's talking about if you roll with it, you can get into another resort, no problem. And you'll see some emails coming up where people talk about that exact opposite problem, that your home resort is really where you have your best shot, and getting into other places. Where I've noticed the disconnect in all these emails, as you'll see when they come out, is people who are traveling with kids, with families, who are planning their family trips. It's very important for them to, like, we're at Animal Kingdom Lodge and that's it. And, they're planning meals months in advance and what park they're going to be in which day. And the folks that are traveling sans children or taking a nephew up as a fun week or something like that, they're a lot more flexible and a lot more laid back in terms of, I'm going to try to get Beach Club, but if I end up stuck at Old Key West again, that's fine with me. And so that's kind of a repeating theme, I think, you see in some of these messages that we got.
And then, of course, the Genie Plus and Lightning Lane. I'm with them.
I am with them 100%. I don't spend as many days in the parks anymore on my visits. In fact, I spend precious few for those precise reasons. And park reservations he refers to, which are mostly retired at this point, except for Magic Kingdom, but still an annoyance.
A similar funny story. I did the move with I tried to run into Animal Kingdom a couple weeks ago to get the magnets. Yeah. And I ran up to go scan and I go, I don't have a park reservation. And I just got one real quick on my phone. And then so I'm like, does this thing even matter? Like, it's very odd. All right. Tom Schuler's next. He wrote us on June 14th. Tom says he's been a listener since the beginning. So 84
he's
episodes,
a super fan. He tweets at us a lot.
He says, talking about timeshares in general, his wife and I were married in October of 1989. We had enough money to spend the first night of our honeymoon at the Grand Floridian, $206 for the rest of the week. We're at the Days Inn in Apopka, Vineland. Or is that Vineland?
It's fine, Lydia.
Okay. There was a salesman for timeshares outside the hotel and offered us breakfast and SeaWorld tickets to come and watch the presentation. The oldest trick in the book there. So after touring a model, sitting through the spiel, and getting sales pitch we weren't interested in, the sales managers turned loose on us. He literally called us stupid for not plunking down the $12,000 for 1 week a year in Kissimmee. So I said, we're honeymoon at the frickin' Days Inn, and you think we have $12,000 to blow?
You've been married for all of 47 hours,
this
right?
is literally, I could hear JT saying this if it was him.
Yeah.
Oh, totally. Give me our SeaWorld tickets. We'll be on our way. The breakfast was horrible, too, he says. Fast forward to 2003. They have a 9-year-old daughter, and they bought DVC for $14,000. 150 points annually until 2053, and a $500 a year maintenance deal. They stayed in hotels that were previously out of reach. We saved hundreds on dining by eating some meals in the room. They have brought extended family and friends who paid for the dining plan multiple times. One vacation, they used points to get a 2-bedroom villa and 2 studios at Jumbo House at Animal Kingdom Lodge, which alone would have cost $9,000. We've used DVC in 20 years and probably 30 different times. They even went twice in 2020. They said probably 30 times we've more than paid for it overall. We get discounts on dining, merch, and APs. Many times we didn't bother with parks, just enjoyed being in the bubble. Vero Beach and Hilton Head are also great, and we also always enjoyed it. Had no regrets until you said that in the 90s there were park admissions thrown in.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah. Later this year, we'll be staying in Rome for a week on our points. So there is one thing, I don't know if we hit on it as much. We might have, and I dug into this, the discounts you get as a member, and it's very similar to annual pass discounts, like everything from $2 off beach chairs at Vero Beach, 20% at Joffrey's, dining, food, all that stuff. Thought that, I mean, you know, and if you're, I'm sure there's somebody out there, and they'll probably write us in, they've probably tracked how much they've saved on discounts, and it's not going to pay for the $12,000 down, but you know,
there was a time where they were a lot more generous than they are now, because you know, 20% discount on a restaurant meal, basically you're getting the tip. You're getting the tip. It covers the tip.
Sure.
I do know that I was traveling with a DVC member last November when I was down there, and the hurricane came through, and it ended up leading to a bunch of tickets for the Christmas party opening up in November there, that night I was there. So we decided on a whim to go, since it had been a sold out event, but since so many people couldn't get down there. And I said, do you get a discount with your DVC membership? Yes. The $160 ticket was discounted to $150. They knocked $10 off.
Yeah, it's not huge by any means.
It reminds me when I see ads that say, like, pay the child admission price for Walt Disney World tickets, but like, it's $6 less.
Yeah,
right. You're really doing me a big favor here.
Now, I do understand there are times where they will target DVC members and offer half price tickets and things like that for something that isn't selling, or low attendance nights, things like that. So I mean, there are
like
benefits.
The NBA experience,
or you know, something like that. But yeah, so I know there are times where they, you know, some good fortune falls in their lap. But
all right, so just to comment on the discounts and stuff, right? We've mentioned that, and I don't know if we said in the last episode, right? DVC is to get. Look, it's a great marketing thing for Disney, because what are they doing? They're getting you to their property every year, or every other year.
Sure.
The discounts, yes, they are discounts, and they help you save and helps the people save. But the company is making up for that discount. So it's a perceived discount to them, right? Because they really don't care if they give you 10% off, because they're going to get more from you for being there and buying other things. Whether it's a water or whether it's something else, they're going to make that money back. So I think the trick here is that, and I'm glad to hear that people use their points to go to Rome, and I'm glad to hear the point, you know, you can use that. I don't know how difficult it is. Somebody can give us an update on that. But a lot of people that we've heard from, and who I've spoken to at the hot tubs, I'll get into that a little later.
Hot tub.
Wait, let's get into it now.
James Brown hot tub.
They want to be at Disney, right? So they're not worried about going other places. A lot of people just want to be there all the time. But that's the thing, is that these discounts are only available there, and that they're there for a reason. The hot tub thing is what I'm talking about. It's funny because, as people know, and we've mentioned, I buy people's DVC points when I go down there. I do not go down as often as most people might think. But my wife and I will go to the hot tub after a day in the park. We'll just sit there, and there's bound to always be a DVC member in that hot tub, and they're just sitting back and talking.
You're at a DVC resort.
I was just going to say that.
No. Sometimes,
what a shock, Todd.
No. Sometimes we're at the general resort. We're not at the pool. You know, some people will be at the regular pool. I mean, everything has DVC. It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Really, when you think about it. But there'll generally be an owner. We've never met anybody that buys points, and their owners. And I was sitting there, and you always talk to them, and, you know, we joke, we buy people's points, and they tell you how long they've been an owner for and all this stuff. And I'm talking to one lady on the recent trip. She goes, my damn husband bought into this. It's the only place we can go. It's the only place he takes me. I'm tired of it. I'm sitting here in the hot tub. I don't know what he's doing. It clearly did not go well for that relationship. And she was like, I can't talk him out of it. I can't talk him about going other places. And you know, apparently this gentleman thought it was the best thing for his family. But so thank you, DVC members. You keep me occupied at the hot tub, so I might see some of you out there.
I did respond to this email from Tom when he first sent it in, because he indicated, he was like, oh, well, you know, we pay X number of dollars a year for the maintenance fee.
Yeah.
And I said, well, how did your maintenance fee stay so low? They're allowed to adjust it each year, right? And he did respond to us and said that the maintenance fee is based on the points, and it has gone up some. He did say it was written into the contract that they're limited by how much they can raise it each year. It's a relatively small amount, but that the rates to use the rooms never change. So, you know, and I think we got a couple of other emails in here that go through that, where, you know, if one bedroom is 13 points during this season, it's always 13 points. It's not suddenly 20 points next year.
I thought that changed. That's interesting.
I did too.
Yeah, because I've seen where the number of points have gone up over the years too.
Yeah, so
maybe it's locked into your contract, and if you're using it.
What he says is, if there's a seasonal increase, like a busy, then there has to be a concurrent decrease during an offsetting season.
Gotcha. So,
you know, if you only want to go at Thanksgiving and Christmas, it's, you know, they can bilk you, but by the same token, it means the rates have to get lower during the lower crowd seasons.
We experience that in renting points too. You know, the points are more at, like, when I have to go at spring break, it's awful. It's like the most points possible to use then. But then if I could go in like October, that'd be amazing. It's way lower. So
is anybody thinking that this is purposely very difficult to understand?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure
we're going to get to a guidebook in a little bit, and you can see why this guy wrote it.
But I'll say here, with Tom will be the first of many emails touching on one of the themes you'll pick up here is the value for a lot of DVC owners is deluxe resorts have become so exorbitantly priced that what it does is it puts it into a price range. DVC ownership puts those resorts into reach for people who otherwise would not be able to afford them. And so if they bank some points one year and don't go, they can stay at the Grand Floridian the next year and blow the wad. And sometimes they can stretch the points by going at low seasons and get 3 weeks of vacation rentals where other people might use the same amount of points in a week at Christmas. So that's some of what you're going to hear here.
I do want to add that for the upcoming Disney Jollywood Nights, Brian, your DVC membership discount will be $10.
Well, anybody needs to borrow a Alexander Hamilton from me, I got one for you.
And one more fun fact on the discounts. I'm going to do a little synergy here connection. If you'd like to do a on-demand course at the Disney Institute as a DVC member, you save 20%. So there you go.
That.
Yeah, they're just still asking anybody to get in there. They need people for the Institute.
So I have to tell you another funny little story that I never executed on this because personally I don't want to be on the Today Show. But I was just thinking about this once. When we say you save, whether it's coupons or Disney or wherever you're going, whether you're at the grocery store, you get the bottom of your receipt at the grocery store. You save $63. Oh my gosh, I saved $63. No, you didn't save it. You just didn't pay that. Saving it is taking the $60 and putting it in the bank account and actually saving it, right? So I always thought it would be an interesting experiment for 1 year to collect all your coupons, and whatever you saved, quote unquote saved, you actually saved it, and see how much you have at the end of the year. And I would be like, this is like a perfect thing for somebody to go on the Today Show and like say that they did, like, oh, we'll have you back in 1 year. And then, Al Roker would tell you what amazing thing you did. But I've always thought of the word save and the way we used it. And it's, you didn't save it. You just didn't pay it. When you put it away, you saved it.
I mean, you really could say, I always joke, I saved $100 off my $250 purchase from wherever. I'd have saved or not spent more money if I wouldn't have bought anything, and just overall, right, exactly. But that coupon made you like, I gotta get it because I'm saving $100 off.
You save everything if you don't buy it. So
what you're advertising is the Disney sit at home in your living room club, not the Disney vacation. There's no vacation.
It's a vacation at that point. Sorry.
That used to be Sunday night with Michael Eisner. You'd sit there, and that was the free one.
If anybody's wondering who the treasurer of the Lake Buena Vista Historical Society is, you might be able to figure it out now. So.
Yeah. All right, we want another one?
Ready? Of course. Yeah. This is what we're here for.
Joe Nocella, he says, listen to your fantastic podcast on the DVC. My ex and I became members in 1997. He held off on buying until they were a little more financially stable. He says, what's funny is that our first use was not at a DVC resort, but rather we used the points to stay at a very nice hotel in London next to Kensington Palace for a week.
Ooh, Joe.
Yeah, I know, Joe. Jeez, I don't know if we can be friends. Here we go. A couple of points here he'd like to say. The length of stay tickets were given to members until 1999. However, you had to have been members within the first 5 years to get that benefit. So even though they joined in 97, they didn't qualify for that benefit.
This deal keeps getting worse and worse.
Well, I was just going to say, what are the benefits that you used to get that when you resell, you don't get, right? Aren't there some that don't transfer too?
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot that does.
You
like
got to be a
buy
real
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then
Pray I don't alter the deal any further.
Yes. That's what I was referring to.
Right,
yeah, you were.
I'm building on that. I'm building on that, Brian.
That would be a bad DVC sales tactic to have Darth Vader in there and just,
you must be stupid not to spend $12,000 now.
Now enjoy
James
some
Earl
terrible
Jones.
breakfast.
Fully armed and operational DVC membership. All right. Our sales rep mentioned, and I did some digging on this, which I think we did, but they were planning resorts in Newport Beach and the ski one in Colorado. There was also a Times Square one coming, and even one which was, what's the hotel that they built over by Fort Wilderness? Is that a Four Seasons?
Yes.
That was going to be a DVC resort as well over there. So all these things they backed out on, they didn't do, they kind of turned in, like the New York City building is there. Disney just backed out, and like Marriott or somebody took it over, and same with the Newport Beach one. And the reason was basically the off Disney property ones just didn't move like they wanted them to. I mean, you very well could be. I bet you it's a heck of a deal. We'll call deal and saving. I stop using that word now because of Todd. You could save a ton if you got a Vero Beach secondhand at this point, but I don't know. All right, about 10 years ago, DVC offered an option in that you can extend your contract for another 10 years, and the cost was minimal. This was a limited time offer. He forgot to mention it, but DVC was planning Times Square. It is true that you tended to cook your own meals while staying at a DVC resort. Our first stop after checking in was to go to Gooding's and stock up on snacks, drinks, milk, cereal, packages of mac and cheese. What always made me uncomfortable shopping at Gooding's was that elderly person always helped me with my groceries to my car.
I don't remember that because I always used to shop there. I would land in a night flight, so I'd be going in there at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. Nobody helped me to my car.
Gooding's was amazing. I remember going in there and seeing cow tongue for sale in the like the meat section.
Oh, really? All sorts of interesting things.
They had all kinds of bits and pieces of animals in there for you.
You cook that in your oven at your DVC. Yeah. One bedroom.
You could have a tongue sandwich. They're very big.
Get some
Eat your tongue sandwich. We're going to the pool.
Make some oxtail soup in there for you. Yeah,
you're going to get some emails from tongue sandwich lovers. Carl Reiner, rest in peace, loved a tongue sandwich.
Now I want to know. I got another challenge. What's the weirdest thing you've cooked in a DVC room? Because I'd like to know if you've done the turkey or the tongue sandwich.
Books. So. They've cooked the books there.
The debacle at Olani cost the head of DVC and DVC CFO their jobs. What had happened that they severely underestimated the annual dues for those that bought into Olani, and the language that was so built into the contracts had a major error, and the annual dues could not be raised. So, and I don't know if you knew this, DVC put a pause in selling Olani contracts until they corrected the dues issue and the error in the contract. That's why the annual dues for Alani are very high for people who bought after the pause in sale, and they could go higher. They continue to go higher.
Man, I wish I would have been paying attention to that one.
Yeah, we jumped on that early.
So, I mean, he also added here, on a side note, he had a friend whose dad was the architect that designed the treehouse villas. Oh. And that dad passed away, but I will ask my friend whether he has some old blueprints or anything like that for that. So thanks, Joe. Anything to add to those, gentlemen?
Yeah, I'm curious if they're the original tree houses or the rebuilt ones, because I think Hal and I tracked down the company that sold the newer ones. They're stock from North or South Carolina or Georgia. I have their brochure somewhere at my office.
Yeah, you can still buy them today.
Yep. You can buy one and put it in Hal's backyard right by the new seawall.
Yeah,
there we go.
Jump out of your treehouse into the.
I have actually considered if I was ever to buy property somewhere, I would just buy one of those and have it put there and like live in the treehouse.
That's it.
Why not? They're hurricane proof.
Like Tarzan or the Swiss Family Robinson, depending on which coast you're on.
There you go.
All right, we got a big one here from Ed. While listening to your latest DVC episode, I was struck by the logic you all shared related to finding value in DVC. Thank you, Todd.
Well, I'm just trying to keep it interesting.
That's why I fell asleep during the end of that episode, undoubtedly.
No, he agrees with us. Keep reading.
You made statements that I made. Why pay now when I can choose the resort I want and pay then? And you even made the same mathematical arguments I made, the large investment required. We were also put off with the lack of housekeeping and other differences in a DVC resort. And then COVID hit.
Dun, dun, dun.
We continued to travel during COVID, and we discovered that those differences were not that big of a deal. So we looked at it again, examined whether or not it had value for us. For my family, we came to the conclusion that it did make quite a bit of sense for us, and that some of the statements or thoughts I had were actually flawed, at least as it pertains to my situation. The analysis I completed and our other reasons are much more detailed and complicated than can be summarized in an email, but here's the high-level heavy hitters. Firstly, we go to Disney at least once per year, and actually now they go 3 to 4 times a year. They prefer to stay at a Disney resort. That's huge. I mean, if you start doing the math and you start shopping around, you can find deals at 5 or 6 places, rent an Airbnb. You don't always win, but if you're really wanting to stay at a Disney resort, it's big for you. We used to rely on discounts to reduce our room costs. So they stayed deluxe resorts. A few years later, we were staying in moderates, and then we found ourselves in value, and we started leveling down on our preferred resort types, just mainly based on cost. When I looked into DVC again, I was struck by a value proposition that you did not discuss, and that is the lack of real escalation in costs. Yes, there are annual dues, and those are subject to increase, but the increases are not at the sole whim of Disney. When I looked at the purchase price, the annual escalated dues through the end of the contract, and then what I get for that total investment, I am paying the rough equivalent of $1,100 in today's dollars for a week at a resort like Wilderness Lodge. Now, yes, to achieve that value, I have to go every year, but we do. If I escalate that out of future values by 2040, I still will only be paying $2,160 for a week at Wilderness Lodge. That is total cost, including the initial purchase and escalated annual dues.
Okay, if I go look at how much a room costs at Wilderness Lodge, $1,000 is like 2 days or maybe one depending on the time.
1.5 with tax.
No, and that's, we always say, like, even renting points, which, that's a whole different thing. Roughly, it feels like you're paying a moderate to stay at a deluxe. That's the feel of it.
Yep.
The value to me is that DVC contract is very close to inflation proof. Disney can move around the points, but they cannot add to the total points at that resort. If they increase the per night points on a particular day, they need to reduce other nights to offset that increase. The price you pay is directly tied to the price you pay per point in the initial purchase. The whole thing told me right there, as an educator that only has off in the worst times of the year, DVC is the worst for me. I should never do it. You also go ahead.
On the pro side, though, one day they will skew the price of the desirable days so high that, like, staying on an off day will cost like 2 points.
Right.
It'll be worth quitting your job just to go on vacation.
You also mentioned the size of the rooms. Yes, they're not enormous, but they're pretty much the same as regular hotel rooms. Finally, and I'll let you guys go, I will not likely be able to continue to go throughout the rest of the life of the contract. I am too old. But my adult kids still love to go to Disney, and we have them on the deed. For them, when my wife and I stop going, they will only need to pay the dues, so the value for them will be much higher. That really means a lot to me.
So 2 points here that he's made that are worth noting, including repeating or expanding on what Tom said about the finite number of points that each resort has, and price being higher at one point and lower at the other. The DVC contract being inflation proof. I can tell you right now, Todd's reply would be, it's also growth proof. It's, the counter argument is, take that pile of money, don't go to Disney, put it in an interest bearing account. And, at the end of the day, you've got $174,000 instead of an expiring vacation contract.
Of which you may not want to go to at some point. Right?
Totally true, which subsequent emails you'll see emphasize the fact that they can sell them. They can sell them for close to what they paid often. But anyway, absolutely the ability to hand this off to your children and pass on their ability to go for a high discount at your expense. I mean, it's a terrific gift. And if my mother's listening, you should consider it.
I think any of us would be happy to take a DVC off of anyone's hands if they would like to. If there's a
listener out there that you don't have any kids or kids you don't like anymore, you're estranged from, you could leave it to any one of us or all of us. You could give it to the society. Right. Tax-free donation.
True,
yeah. Hey, do the spiel that you do at the end of every episode. Lake Buena Vista Historical Society is a
nonprofit, nonpartisan 501c3 organization.
Exactly.
It's not affiliated in any way with the Walt Disney Corporation or any of its.
There you go.
But we do like inheriting people's DVC contracts.
That's right. We could put it to use. It would help us, and not personally, but with everybody, with all the people we bring in. So.
New listener audio teaser prize, one night. All right, so that was Ed. That's I like all that.
I think what's interesting about his story is like it changed. He said I didn't like it, and then it makes sense. And that's what I kind of get to at the end is that people's lives change, and there's different needs for this and different values of it at different parts of the life, and sometimes it's very valuable for somebody's entire life too.
Yeah, so. I keep seeing use case over and over again here. It's like there are use cases that we will see that when we got the email is like, oh, I never thought of that because that's not the world that I live in, but that makes complete sense of why you would do that.
But what's interesting is that, and I'll get to this at the end, is that you're absolutely right. But the use cases, there's a common denominator between some of these use cases as well, but we'll get to that later.
Oh yeah, and generally it's I want to stay at Disney as much as I can.
Not just stay, that's where I want to go.
right. Which is great
awesome.
Because
that's where you want to be.
Disney loves that, right? Whether you stay in a hotel or DVC, Disney's going to get your money anyway, so you may as well make it the way that you like it.
Yep.
Yeah. So touching on the next email, which is from Heather Vale.
Can we just pause for 1 second? So it's funny that you said that, Hal, because whether you want Disney gets your money. Now think about that. Who's the one holding the money in an interest-bearing account when you pay for it, though? They are.
Yeah.
So think about it. They're making the investment off of you too, right? You give them $20,000, you repeat that 100, 200, 500,000, 10,000 times. Yes, there are things to pay for. Yes, there's construction. The whole point of a company is to hold that money somewhere and also make interest on it. They invest. They don't just sit on their money.
I'm no fool.
Yeah, they're not
no
Scrooge. It's not Scrooge McDuck with a bunch of gold coins that don't increase in value.
You're not calculating the compound interest on the memories.
There you. Oh God.
I mean, this is like trying to argue with somebody that goes to Vegas every year too. I mean, there's a reason why they have these massive hotels. There's a reason why,
Absolutely.
I mean, odds are you're not going to win. That's just, but at the same time, people have fun. They go, they love it,
It's the guy next to me that's going to lose, JT, not me.
Yeah, and I learned at my first visit. I'm like, they give you free beer to sit here, and they're like, yeah, well, I lost $100 sitting here for that free beer. There's a reason, yeah.
Free beer, yeah.
Yeah. So, you want to do Heather's there, Brian?
I will.
Go ahead.
So we got this one from Heather Vale, and Heather wrote first off that we brought up a lot the upfront cost on a DVC on the episode, and that was a big consideration for them buying in. She did a calculator for herself that she used over time to track their initial investment, which you'll clutch your pearls, then for each trip that they took. She looked up the cash value of the room they were booking and began subtracting that from their initial price to see their break-even point. She also added the annual dues in as a cost that worked against the break-even, but considering their initial layout was $48,000 in 2018. It was down to about $12,000 away from their break-even point after 5 years, if compared against what they would have paid for cash pricing. So again, the repeating theme of it's a great discount on deluxe resorts. She said, thinks it even may have taken another 3 to 4 years to hit break-even, at which point 22, 26, 27, they will still have about 35 years left on their contract. I'm going to jump around a little bit here in the email because you might be wondering where they paid $48,000 for in 2018, and that was at the Polynesian Resort. So she says she thinks there's been some talk about how much the points cost on the show as well, and that was a little hard to follow, and it can be because timeshares by nature, whether they're Disney or not, can be confusing for people who aren't used to navigating them. But as a non-member, she says you can book for around $20 to $25 a point for the points that you have to have for the room booked. However, if you want to buy into DVC, depending on the resort, you're in the $150 to $200/$300 per point range because those are your points that renew annually. There are also cash rooms at the resort, but, and this was one we talked about it, but wasn't mentioned yet, Disney cannot just release rooms for from the inventory for cash at these DVC resorts because there are rules for how Disney can use the inventory and shift the points around within each individual DVC property. Anywho, this was her snapshot of a rudimentary tracker that takes her from their initial sale price to where they are today. They have not regretted being members at all. She definitely thinks that it is all what you were hoping to get out of it. I think we would agree with that. Mm-hmm. If you want a prepaid room thinking that you're getting a deal in a room, that's likely not the case over the first 10 years at least. She also would not have financed knowing a bill that would be coming every month for a vacation she wasn't on. So they did wait until they had the cash on hand to just pay cash for what is essentially a luxury purchase.
That is a great way to think of it. That's exactly what it is. It's discretionary income, right?
Yeah.
That's
and she does say that because they've spent so much time there the last 5 years and hit the break-even point, they're going to be spending less time in Florida. They don't see them traveling there in the foreseeable future, and they may buy in at Aulani.
No, there we go.
In addition to this, once all is said and done. So, and then it carries on. Their break-even point is even accelerated because of a big shift in how they vacation, which came with having points versus having to pull out a credit card to pay for the room. They went to Disney more often, even through the pandemic, and would stay at the boardwalk or the Polynesian, which they might have skipped for a trip or stayed off property. They used their points at Aulani in 2019 for a once-in-a-lifetime trip, stayed in a studio room, went back in August 22, or back in 2022, so it wasn't a once-in-a-lifetime trip. They got a 1-bedroom ocean view, which is not something they ever would have paid $1,200 a night cash for 7 days. And they also booked 1 and a 2-bedroom rooms at the Hilton Head and the Boardwalk over the past few years, whereas they might have been fine with a regular hotel room before. So staying in those rooms has made their vacations much more enjoyable. They've spent time exploring the resorts, which have a lot to offer in their own right, and using their room as a home base to relax in the afternoon and make breakfast in the morning before heading to the parks or to the beach. So they aren't hunting the grounds for 30-minute Starbucks lines or to get a mediocre muffin. Man, you're speaking my language here. This is made their lives easier because of their proximity, these resorts, to the parks and the transportation and using the walking paths. So the rooms almost always have a balcony and or jacuzzi tub and are stocked with the comforts of home. They have a bottle opener and glasses ready for the wine you want to pop open and take to the patio or bubble bath at the end of the night. She knows how to do this, man. Let me tell you. There are some other shifts in how we plan to getting used to 11 months or 7 months. We did talk about this in the last episode. 11 months for your home resort you can book. 7 months if you want to book a different DVC resort. And we have some subsequent emails here that say it's harder to book those 7-month reservations. Some say near impossible. But over the past few years, lifelong memories with their kids, family, and friends. They did also rent points out that they weren't going to use. So that did offset some dues for us, which was a nice option. She doesn't think DVC's for everyone. It's a big investment that requires a lot of thought and planning, what Disney expense doesn't. But they just wanted to share their experience, and they've loved every minute of it. But now that the kids are older, they are setting their sights on showing them the World Beyond World Showcase.
Oh,
a little
just
something
like
for all of us in
Epcot,
there. Yeah, a little something for all of us in there.
It's a great, well-written stuff and a lot of good information in there. And really, it it's like gone full circle for them too. It sounds like they've gotten the best deal out of it, and they're probably ready to do something different. And they've had some great experiences from it. And I'm glad it's helped a lot of people do that.
I'm going to do the next email too because it's short, and that is from Kim Capadonna. And Kim tells us that she's adding her 2 cents here. They bought a resale contract in the spring of 2016, 3 days before they announced the changes, that the resales would no longer get the discounted annual passes or other benefits of DVC purchased directly from Disney. And the discounted annual passes were the reason that they jumped in, because it is actually a nice discount for the DVC members. I don't think quite as cheap as Florida residents. We should know that, but it's a substantial discount.
I would be surprised if they're not similar or identical.
Yeah, maybe. So we'll get 14 emails telling us now. But the cost of the points pretty much balances out with the hotel rooms they were booking anyway, with 3 kids in tow. It used to mean 2 hotel rooms or a wildly overpriced suite. Now they have some pretty good perks too. Most of those are gone now, and it's not nearly as appealing if you were to buy resale today. So thank you, Kim, for that.
Next up, we have an anonymous letter here, and we'd like to get into this now. We were DVC owners until just this past month. Thank you, Todd. You convinced... No, I'm just kidding.
He did it himself.
Here's a little summary of Eric's experience. We visited the DVC Center in 2005, which was basically no pressure at all. And I think that's to be noted. They did break the mold on that. The high pressure, you get the grandfather clock, and it's really a tabletop version of it. That didn't ever happen. It seemed like with Disney cardboard. Yeah. It's, it was I went to the pitch. I'm sure we all did, to get something free out of it and just sort of whatever. And it never felt like you had to buy, and they didn't call you stupid and all that stuff. So they took care of our 2 kids, gave us snacks, fast passes, and they ended up buying 150 points to a reseller. So I'm just imagining going through the spiel, and then they just leave and we're going to go look at resale.
It's like going to the used car dealer after you've been...
Do you think there's anybody that was ever like, you're not buying this, you must be stupid, who goes, well, I don't want to be stupid. All right, I'll buy it.
I'll buy it. It's such a great deal. You convinced me.
We had a while ago. My wife fell for the scheme of a free cruise, and she gave him $200.
Yeah.
And to basically get out of it, I told him we had a life-threatening illness and we couldn't do this, and give us our money back and that whole thing. And it took 2 hours. And the guy, I loved it. He goes, "Well, what better time to take a cruise than when you're about to die?" I was like, "Just give me the money back, man!" And we did. We got out of it. But I was like, "Don't ever agree to those cold calls again."
No.
We covered our own financing through our home equity line because we bought this early. We were grandfathered in when the big change happened a few years ago. I'm just talking about the change of 2006 or whatever that was. At the time, I believe the new points being sold were Saratoga and were charging around $105 a point with a minimum purchase of 150 points. On our ownership documents, we owned a portion of Unit 34 at Old Key West. As you said, it doesn't match a room, but that's the legalese because it was real estate.
It's like National Lampoon's going to Germany, trying to find. I'm looking for Unit 34. They end up at Fritz's house.
Hey, I own a 1 square inch of the moon.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my spot right there.
Where's Unit 34? Oh, sorry,
they've been pushing that buy a piece of land in Scotland now, so you're a lord or a lordess.
Yeah, right.
That's in the time we had the points dues increase from 670.94 and 150 points to 1,400 this past year. As the dues have gone up, service has gone down in terms of housekeeping and transportation, which we all know what Disney is now versus what it was 30 years ago or whatever. And that is something I didn't really consider when, thinking about DVC. I thought for sure they'd at least try to keep it up, but
yeah,
it's interesting. When our girls were younger, we went every year. There was at least 1 year where we went twice, maybe to buzz down for food and wine, and just me and my wife. I also used the points to stay while I attended a tech conference in Swalfin. As the girls got older, we rented our points out either directly to friends or through DVC rental store. We were getting a good point per rate DVC rental score, more than enough to cover the dues, and the surplus went into the vacation fund. Unfortunately, lately, the rates at DVC rental store have plummeted down to the point where the spread between our dues and the income wasn't worth it, especially as the maintenance fees have continued to rise. They decided to sell their points this year for $95 a point. We got an offer for $90, and they took it. In summary, we paid $11,700 for the points initially and received $13,600 when we sold them 18 years later. Don't even get out the calculator, Todd. We paid approximately $13,000 in dues and taxes, but bought in at $11,600 in rental income. Brought that in, sorry. This means for 18 years of access, we paid about $200. Of course, there's the opportunity cost of putting the money in with Disney instead of investing it, but overall, we did pretty well. The primary reason we did it was because I was working as a software contractor and tended to never take time off. By getting the points, it gave us a reason to take a vacation on a regular basis. We liked the Disney bubble, stayed at all the properties, even Bay Lake Tower during the pandemic. Same here. We never exchanged points for cruises since the conversion rates weren't very good. I have heard that the cruising was not a good use of points. Unfortunately, with the massive price increases at Disney parks for tickets, food, the high cost of airfare, plus the fact that our kids are getting old or getting out of the house, we want to do non-Disney things. Boy, that sentence is exactly to you, Brian and Todd. In the future, we probably rent points to go to Disney, but I don't see us going there anytime soon. It was a choice, and looking back at it after almost 20 years, I don't regret our decision to purchase there. Would I buy resale DVC today? No, not with the restrictions. The restrictions basically cut the legs out of the resale market, I think. One more thing. For Old Key West, our points expire in 2042. However, a while back, they offered to extend it for 15 years. I don't remember how much it was. We decided against extending the points. However, Disney was contacting people with 2042 points, offering to buy them out at $85 a point. So lots in there. And one thing that I am getting here, and as we'll say, younger parent, they really get you at that moment when you are your most vulnerable and you're thinking, I have to make memories with my family. Which it's like the first kid versus the second kid. I have hours of video footage of my first kid. My second kid, not so much. It's just kind of how it goes. And you go to Disney and you're the same way. You're like, man, this is great. We should do this every year. What's this thing? Let's go here. But then as they get older, it seems like there's a trend here of like, we're going to going to back out of this. We're going to go do something else. I want to take the wife to Arizona. I want to, do something else.
I'm really thinking about this too, is because some people are saying that, their dues went up and really high and it didn't make it worth it. Other people say, the dues haven't been bad over time. And he makes a good point here at the end, buying them to rent out is just not a great deal. And for them, look, they broke even. That's pretty good. And he admits that, he didn't make money. He didn't lose money. $200 is a wash, right? Comes out in the wash. Anyway, this will be more supporting evidence for my argument at the end. Not argument, but my statement at the end.
All right, our next letter is from Mr. Ken Cabot. He said, as usual, episode 84 was fantastic. Is that as a longtime DVC member, he has a few thoughts to share. So first of all, although DVC is a point-based system, when you do buy into the program, you actually purchase real estate interests in a specific physical part of the resort property. And he attached a copy of one of his deeds, and you can see that he owns, and I love this, a 0.3069% interest in Unit 67C at Animal Kingdom Lodge. It's free real estate. I'm also attaching a declaration of condominium, which is an example complete with blueprints of how they define the various units. I love that, a declaration of condominium. I think the founding fathers all signed that, didn't they?
Exactly. That's when the Animal Kingdom broke away from the rest of the property and decided just to go on and on their own.
Became a 55 and older.
So it says, as you predicted, Disney will offer to extend the contracts for Old Key West as the expiration date draws closer. So they, in fact, do not just kick you out unceremoniously at the end of 50 years if they get some more money out of you. In fact, they sent out a solicitation letter to Old Key West owners about 10 to 15 years ago, and he says, and we've heard this from other people, that they offered a 15-year extension for about $15 a point, which that's cheap, right? I mean, that's how could you say no to that?
Yeah, we cut $2,500, for 150 points.
Okay, so I was kind of wondering, 15 years ago, was the company a little short on money back then compared to now? I wonder if there was like a financial reason why
you had the 2008 crash.
They stopped building some of the other hotels. Yeah. They probably wanted to entice the ones that they had to stay longer.
And the recovery was very slow, so I don't think a lot of people, real estate prices dropped all over the country. So,
he says DVC has historically offered a variety of incentives to get people to take tours. So, in addition to fast passes, 3 per person in your group, that was pretty good, right? Mm-hmm. He's seen them offer gift cards and even cash. Can you imagine $200? He thinks. Can you imagine walking out of that with $200 in your hand? Along with the sales centers you mentioned at Boardwalk in Saratoga Springs, for a while they offered presentations at the Town Square Theater in the Magic Kingdom. Says that's where he was introduced to DVC in 2000.
If Mr. Anonymous of the prior email had gotten $200 in cash for his tour, he would have ended up breaking completely even.
That's right.
And when he sold his trip.
Wait, wasn't he up 200 or was he down 200?
I think he said he cost
down
him 200.
Yeah. So if he had gotten the 200 in cash for the tour, he should go back to them.
We can get a GoFundMe going too for him too.
I'm picturing in the Town Square Theater in the Main Street there, instead of meeting Mickey Mouse, you would meet a DVC sales rep. Was that the big draw?
That was the meet and greet.
Everybody, come on in. Let's take a look at the point system. Finally, an interesting note regarding DVC's fiscal reporting. According to Len Tesla and Jim Hill, DVC's revenue is reported under the Parks and Resort category. So if DVC were to ever stop building and selling new resorts, there would be a huge revenue reduction reported under Parks and Resorts. That is very interesting.
Yep.
He says, thank you, and as always, for such a great show and community. Can't wait to see you in September. And we can't wait to see him too.
Our next one comes from Michael Esposito, who said he must be that guy as a DVC owner and say that we seemed mildly ill-informed because DVC is very complex, especially if you only look at it from a financial perspective. I don't think we only looked at it from a financial perspective, but we have gotten a lot of emails that talked about the value of the memories and things over time. But he said one big factor that we missed in our episode was the resale value. And Disney has such strong stipulations in place to ensure resale value is maintained. Quick example, they mentioned Old Key West. The pre-sale started at $48 per point. Today, Old Key West is selling on the resale market at, conservatively, $100 a point. Disney Direct is selling it likely for over $200 per point, so they'll exclude that. Assuming a 3.75% return for 31 years, $48 invested in 1992 would be $103 today. About what Old Key West sells for. 3.75% is not a return you'd want for retirement. However, if it also got you 31 years of vacation, it's not even a break even. You'd get more back for your investment after you vacation for 31 years. And he breaks down a lot of the same math at some of the other resorts and their annual dues, some of what other folks have said. But at the end of it, he stressed, as you know, I was one of the people who moved my opinion a bit after our episode and reading all this feedback. And one of the strong pieces of replies we've gotten from this email, some priors and some we'll yet read, is that you can get a large portion of your money back when you decide to sell before your 40 or 50 years is up. So thank you for that letter, Michael.
Okay, I'm going to get Ethan here. Ethan wrote us on June 22nd. He says, funny how worlds collide. My dad was a timeshare salesman in the Poconos in the 80s. So he might have been one of the guys giving away the cardboard grandfather clocks to your friend. He was a teacher the rest of the year, but for 3 or 4 summers, he's head up to Outdoor World and sell campsite timeshares, the old off-season job for teachers. I love it. They use the "you can use them anywhere" sales pitch and even claim they were so close to Disney World that the only thing that separated them was a chain link fence. That's
and
awesome.
14 miles.
Yes. Occasionally people won cars, and there were mid-tier giveaways too, but most won the clocks. He bought in at DVC, Saratoga Springs, in 2009, right before his 30th birthday. Living in New York City with a lot of young friends meant that no one really had money to travel to Disney. When the opportunity came to buy DVC, pre-2011, when you still got the perks, I looked at it as a way I could take one of the biggest roadblocks to a Disney vacation away from my friends. Wow, that's nice of you. Disney's better when you have friends to share it with. I agree, and we had some great trips. Now my wife and I have the same number of points, but end up using them for larger rooms or to bring family members down, and a fewer friends want to make the trip. But that's what it always was for me, a way to make Disney trips cheaper for other people.
That is the most unselfish email we've gotten about DVC ever, and that's really awesome to see people do it and think about it that way. And that's really just extending what you've been able to accomplish and getting other people to experience where they may never have been able to experience that in the future. All right, I got this one, guys. Linda Umbriet, love your podcast. Thank you. We do too. I listened on my way to work and to and from work. I really like your June podcast about my home resort, Old Key West. You guys were spot on with all your information. I had heard about DVC in 1993, called and spoke to a rep who sent me a video about it, and then I called him back and bought 192 points sight unseen. Wow. I wonder if she got the brochure like my grandparents got, but 192 points was the minimum you could buy in August 93 for $11,500. She bought it with cash, even though she was 29 and had 2 little kids. I'd been going to Disney every year since I was 20, which was the year I won a trip to Disney and got hooked. I want to hear about the winning trip.
I want to hear how you won
that like
the trip.
McDonald's or something? Like if that was 20, hold
like
on,
the
she was
Reader's
29
Digest,
in 93, so 9 years prior was 82, so she won a trip when she was 20. All right, do write in, Linda, and tell us about this trip you won, because we're curious.
Maybe it was the same contest that Roseanne and Dan won when they got to go to Walt Disney World.
And every other ABC sitcom, yeah. I did get free tickets into the park for the first 7 years, which is great. I still have the license plate with the 3 mountains on it. We talked about going from 3 to 2 mountains on the logo. I was sad when they changed the logo. We've stayed at every DVC property on site in Vero and Hilton Head. We moved to Florida almost 2 years ago and live in Tampa. Hey, look at that. You got a local.
Yeah, you can go hang out in house, seawall.
For the past several years, we've used the points on Disney Cruise Line, which I think is the best value for the points. My estimate was that the DVC purchase would pay off within 7 years. It's still the best decision I've ever made. We always try to see, experience, eat something new each time we go, which is at least once a month now. My kids still love Disney and come with us when they can, but I just love going with my husband. So that's a local using it to just chill out and go for a day or two, which when you're not trying to go for a week, filling in the blanks where, oh, there's a room available for 2 nights. We'll take it. That's great.
And it would naturally be a great deal for people who are in proximity, and it sounds like she's either works remote or they're semi-retired or they're just doing it on weekends.
Right.
Obviously opportunities will present themselves if you're constantly trolling the availability site and suddenly you're like, oh, hey, we can go this weekend for 11 points. Let's go.
It's interesting. She said it's the best value for points going on cruises, because I heard it was the opposite, but.
Well, again,
okay,
situational.
But remember, she bought in 1993 at the least price possible. So maybe that makes it. Plus, if they work the same way with the like the hotels do, where there are high point times and low point times, maybe she's able to take the low point times and maximize her early buy-in.
Her maintenance fees might not have gone up. I mean, it's very confusing to find out whose maintenance fees have or haven't gone up quickly. Some people are, so maybe she's still on the good end of the stick.
Yeah, it's like a pyramid scheme, right? You got to get in at the beginning in order to.
You got it.
Not that DVC is a pyramid scheme. I'm not suggesting.
No,
not at all. We're going to cut that out so we can not get terrible emails. Our next guy to write in was Jimmy Shattuck, and Jimmy has been an avid listener of ours. He first visited Walt Disney World in 1973, and he appreciates that we help him relive some of the best days of his life through your podcast. Well, to be honest with you, Jimmy, when we're old and this is all done, we're all going to look back on these podcast recordings as some of the best days of our lives. So, we have that in common. I was especially interested in your latest show discussing the early years of the DVC. After analyzing it for years, he finally purchased in 2014, and then a second contract in 2015, and then a third in 2016, and a fourth in... No, I'm just kidding. He's second in 2015. My points allow my family of 11 to stay in a 3-bedroom grand villa every other year with a few left over for a quick trip in the off year. Through my research of DVC, I put all my findings in a book called the DVC Field Guide. I know Todd wants to talk about this, but at 700 pages, it's the most comprehensive book ever written on DVC. It's an independent guide that every DVC member or potential member should have, and here are a few points that he needs to make. First, it's not for everyone. The idea of spending a large sum of money up front and then making a financial commitment for a lifetime of prepaid vacations to the same place should cause you to shudder. And there are too many unknowns to decide to vacation in the exact location every 1, 2, or 3 years. Life changes are inevitable even in the short term. Second, there are 200,000 DVC members. And the common statement he says he hears from them is, I wish I had bought sooner. DVC members typically are some of the most loyal Disney fans. They know that a Disney vacation is costly and continues to rise yearly as a DVC member. And I'll add our own little side note. It also continues to rise yearly if you're not a DVC member by a lot. By owning memberships, they are partially shielded from the annual cost increases. For non-members, DVC rooms and villas have a 95% occupancy rate. He mentions the resale market, that he bought his contracts at Animal Kingdom Lodge on the resale market for $79 and $86 a point in 2014 and 2015. Today, they are worth $125 a point. Resale membership prices peaked at the end of 2021, but have declined over the last year. Does DVC work as a financial model? He has a full breakdown, which Todd may want to touch on, but based on his model compared to a Disney on-site vacation, DVC is not for you if you're happy to stay in value locations. On the other hand, payback can be attractive if you're staying in deluxe resorts. You are already staying in the best Disney DVC locations. The payback will be 4 to 7 years on average. The DVC decision is slightly cloudy for moderate vacation choices, which he defines as Riverside, Coronado Springs, etc. The payback is around 8 to 12 years, which may not be as financially attractive. but your vacation stays will be upgraded as you stay in Disney's finest accommodations. Renting DVC points to save money. He says the third-party rental companies have emerged to facilitate the point rental market. If you're a DVC member, you can sell your points rather than getting rid of your membership. The cost per point's about $18 today on average. And the process is easy and allows members to recoup their annual dues expenses, which are between $7 and $12 a point for an owner, and have a little cash left over. On the other side, if you want to stay at a DVC resort, a person can rent these points around $21 a point average, although I know Todd has found better deals, and so have some of us at times. And you can save 25 to 50% on your vacation. This is becoming increasingly attractive to non-DVC members and provides an outlet to members who can't use their points or need cash. So using DVC points for vacations in non-DVC points, he says, is not a good value. They will offer you to use your points for Disney cruises, Adventure by Disney tours, National Geographic expeditions, and vacation exchanges through Interval International. These point exchanges are not a good value. So this is a contrary email to the last one. In most cases, you'd be better off renting out your points, taking the cash, and booking one of these vacations with the cash money.
Yeah.
So he was kind enough to send along a copy of his 700-page ebook, which I know Todd has read cover to cover.
All 700 pages. I did it in 7 days. 100. Now, first of all, this document, if you are interested in DVC or you are an owner or
you want to start your own timeshare.
Yeah, exactly. This is the definitive guide. What's his name? Sorry.
Eric?
Jimmy
Shattuck.
Jimmy has done...
he is the Robert Birnbaum of DVC,
there you
right?
go. Absolutely. So it's 700 pages. You can get it at dvcfieldguide.com. So what is that 700 pages? Well, he's got introductions, how to choose a resort, choosing a use year, how to buy a contract from Disney, how to buy from a resale, direct versus resale. And goes into ownership discounts, maintenance, evaluations, DVC economics. He's got, 30 pages just on the economics of DVC. He's got, and then goes into availability, accommodations, and then there's sections on every single resort. The resort and accommodation details start on page 268, and each resort has about 30 to 40 pages dedicated to it. And then there's ownership key dates and information. If you love data, if you love graphs, and you want a lot of information about DVC, and you are thinking about being a DVC owner, I highly recommend this. His numbers are really cool. He's got charts, and he apologized to us. He's like, "Oh, this has only been updated as of June, not July." I was okay, but he constantly updates this, and he's got this graph in here: annual cost purchase price versus dues as of June 2023. He's got heat maps of when resorts are the most busy. Phenomenal amount of information. I could not recommend this enough. It's a really, really good thing. But a couple things that he said, Brian, you commented on the financial model. DVC doesn't work. It's interesting how he broke that down to where people want to stay, whereas the sweet spot is those that can afford or are willing to pay to be in a deluxe resort, right? If you just want to stay in All-Star Art of Animation, why are you paying for this?
Doesn't make sense for those people.
Doesn't make sense. And it's iffy. And then the other stuff, I get it. Your deluxe resorts are expensive. Comment on the renting DVC points to save money. I do it. And the reason is because I don't want to own, and I don't go often enough to justify. And if I did own, I just don't want to worry about selling points and all that. Again, at the end, I got more stuff to say. But he's right. It's attractive to non-DVC members and gives me a discount when I want to go. Yeah, sure, there's the hassle of trying to find the points and the best deal. I'll tell you what, I haven't been stumped yet. And I think I've used it 6-7 times, maybe 8 times. So certainly has worked out for me. Works out for others. I think we talked about in the last episode how this industry or this part of Disney has really spawned off additional industries in the area. So I have not been able to read all of it, but what I did read and go through, it's a fantastic guide. I would certainly give a look at it. He also has resale history. So yeah. It's really interesting. It shows the dips and 18 on certain ones. It's really interesting how the resale history in the Grand Floridian dropped down to 150 points in early 2023, and then now is kind of bouncing back up. They all took a dip. And it looks like a lot of them peaked in around August 2021. It was a big peak of resale history. Bay Lake Tower, almost $180 a point, so really fascinating information. really fascinating.
We'll have to include a link to it in the show notes so that people know where to go if they're interested in purchasing this little
If you're listening and you want to go there immediately without finding the show notes, dvcfieldguide.com. So, Jimmy, thank you very much for sending that in. It's great. And he also sent an Excel spreadsheet. He's got a break-even calculator, so you can put in your cash flow, how much you're spending, what are you spending on the points, and it calculates the whole thing out. It's what I would do if I was purchasing it, but head over to Jimmy's site and he'll take care of you.
Okay, Michael is next. Michael Landis. Hello, gentlemen. Just listened to the DVC episode. Congrats on another terrific topic. A clarification that might interest you. You can use your DVC points at any of the other DVC resorts, but your points go farthest at your home resort. The booking window for your home resort is 11 months out. It's 7 months out for all the other ones. With so many DVC members now, it's nearly impossible to get the nights you want at a resort other than your home resort because they're already booked by the 7-month window. You may be able to get a couple nights you want and cobble together a couple different resorts for your trip, or you may be waitlisted. Does this make sense? It's actually a really big deal for DVC members since the ability to stay at all different resorts is a huge perk.
As Todd and I can attest, as we tried to get Beach Club DVC for the weekend of our Retro Magic event, yes, we're completely familiar with how difficult it is to get there if it's not your home resort.
Exactly. And we were using somebody else's points, so very difficult.
Yeah, I'm on a wait list, and they're like, still nothing. Yeah. I don't think that's going to open up. So let me get a specific example. My DVC home resort is Saratoga Springs. 11 months from my hoped-for trip, I can book Saratoga no problem. Every room type and night is available. Good to go. But if I want to stay at Beach Club Villas, I have to wait until 11 months out, at which point there's no availability. 7 months out, sorry. At which point there is no availability at the resort. Thus, I have to look elsewhere, and maybe I'll have to book a couple nights here and there if I want to venture beyond Saratoga. Sorry if that's a lot, but it's the most important factor I've found in booking our DVC trips.
I know a lot of DVC members who encounter that. And
oh, really?
Yeah, and they're a lot of them, again, if you're not traveling with kids, it's easier to say, oh, we're going to do 2 nights at Wilderness Lodge, and then we're flopping over for 3 nights at Beach Club, and then we're going to finish it out with a couple nights at the Grand Floridian and use the points that way because those were the available nights. That's a really hard thing to do, JT. You could probably attest.
Oh, yeah.
If you're carting around a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old like that, that's not happening.
Yeah. And what's interesting, too, is, that's pretty much, I think I've exclusively stayed like that unless, I'm just looking for a cheap bed. You go All-Star or something. Certain ones just always pop up. Saratoga is always available. Animal Kingdom's always available. Those couple are just, it seems like it doesn't matter when you want to book it. There's something there.
Yeah, there is. It's the hot ones that are close to the resorts and things that are. Mm-hmm. But to Saratoga, to me, it's a great deal.
Yeah,
I love Saratoga.
It's funny because unless we were picking Beach Club for its location, the same reason you pick the Bay Lake Towers, which are tiny rooms, and the Polynesian and the Grand Floridian one for its proximity to being on the monorail. Honestly, like I look at it, I'm like, man, I'd pick between Old Key West or Saratoga because they're very chill. They're very, they're great. Just kind of, it's a real vacation.
Yeah, sure.
As opposed to being in the thick of it. And
there's Saratoga has that comes with the other ones for sure.
Oh yeah, totally. It's just they have a different feel. Saratoga, you're back in some of those different buildings. They got their own pool. You don't really, you need to use your car to get in.
Tree houses.
Those are there. I did that one stay I told you guys about where I was, marathon training and I was running through all the golf courses. It was just, you just felt like you're in a totally different place. It didn't feel like Disney World.
The one downside to Saratoga, in my opinion, is the outdoor entrances are a little weird, but that's just me.
Yeah, they do have that. In case you're
Do
wondering,
you mean because it's the remnants of the Buena Vista Village and all the other things, so it was like townhomes?
No.
Or?
I mean, I think in general,
Todd likes an inner hallway with a door on the inside. He doesn't like an exterior door.
I heard that
hotel.
about him.
Not a motel fan.
Motel. Well, no, it does have kind of a motel feel, and it's not that your doors are right there. There's these weird long hallways, and you're there, it's humid and hot, and you got the lizards jumping around. It's just a comment. It's just a comment. I mean, it's
Old Key West is like that,
yeah.
And so is
does the lizard put on a little top hat and go, "Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime girl."
Well, are those new buildings, Todd, or are those the old?
No,
all
these
of
are
them.
the new ones.
The whole resort
is
is
like that. Yeah.
Okay.
But I love the grounds. I like everything's walkable to the main area. I enjoy it. It's just a comment. That's all. So somebody can beam me
that's
over
a
that.
very. I mean, I guess they're all. To me, when we walk through, it seems very spread out there.
Yeah.
Oh, it totally is.
But there has been a traditional delineation that value and moderate resorts have an exterior door.
Yep.
Whereas deluxe resorts have interior corridors and ways in like that.
But what's funny is I think the size of Saratoga and what you get for your money, to me, is higher than a moderate. I feel it's a little higher than a moderate resort, if you ask me.
Oh, I mean, it's considered a deluxe resort. So
yeah.
Well, and the big perk, which I mean, we found was walk to Disney Springs. You don't have to go park in the Lime Garage. You don't got to. You just
it
walk
was
over.
Great for that, except when we stayed there, the COVID stuff still had to make you go to the entrance all the way around.
Oh, did they? Oh my gosh!
So it's right there, and like,
so
no,
you
you
could
can't
walk
go
through the
here.
temperature screening. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to go all the way around. Oh, it was terrible. But anyway, then that was temporary, so not a big deal.
Well, Michael also says, in case you're wondering, he acquired DVC membership from his parents back in 2002 or 3. His parents bought into Saratoga, dreaming of the annual family gatherings at Disney that would bring together his sister and her family from the West Coast and me from the East Coast. Those magical gatherings never materialized. My parents got sick of my sister and me fighting over Disney's trip, so a few years later, they gifted the membership to my sister and me. Her and I split the points. We take turns of the points every other year. Anyway, look forward to seeing you at the yacht club soon. Well, where you don't have DVC's point. I'm just kidding. He's looking forward to seeing us there, though. Where he actually had his wedding reception there. How about that?
Oh, so would everybody agree that the only thing better than buying DVC points is having DVC points given to you upon the death or the benevolence of someone else?
Well, the thing is to make you have your parents buy them and then make it so difficult for them to plan a trip that they just say, "Here, have the points." This was Michael's scheme all along, and it worked out perfectly.
Nicely done, Michael.
Nicely done. And we look forward to seeing you too and celebrating your the location of your wedding reception with your lovely wife.
I wonder if he got DVC points for the event at the yacht club or beach club. Because we couldn't get them.
I have. I've spoken to him, but I don't remember where. I think he's at Saratoga for this, but I don't remember.
Figures. He's a member. All right, last one that I have here, unless you guys have any others in the hopper hidden somewhere. This is from John. John says, just listen to your DVC show, and I'm sure you'll get a ton of messages about what a great deal it is and how wrong you are. He's a spreadsheet lover.
You hit the nail on the head there, my friend.
John's a spreadsheet lover and has some of his own math when it came to this. I've been a member since beginning in 2015. Disney opened the Polynesian. It pushed me over the edge into the buy camp. Plus, we bought on a cruise, which is already not the smartest move. I was hoping you'd say go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm imagining being on a cruise and going into a DVC presentation while you're on your cruise.
I want to tell you, I've just looked back at my emails. Michael is waitlisted for the Beach Club Villas for our event.
Well, that's the thing. How I can imagine, I've been on the cruise, hey, come to the yard show. We've got discounted watches at noon and all that. And then is it at 1, we got a presentation on DVC, which you really can't use that well on this cruise ship. That's interesting.
Yeah, I assume there must be a kiosk or two somewhere. I'm sure I walked past it a dozen times.
What if they were selling you 0.028% of cabin U-106, like on the ship.
Or just like a tiny square of water in the Atlantic. You go.
No, I own a portion of the anchor on this
Castaway
boat.
Key. You could buy 3 grains of sand on Castaway Key.
He says, anyway, I have kept a spreadsheet that has included the lost opportunity cost and inflation to see what my actual cost has been year over year. It took us a little over 3 years to pay back the 9% loan 9%. By making.
Wow. He has exclamation point on it.
A year ago, that sounded crazy. Now it's not so far off from the going rate.
No, it's not. Right. It's still high. Still high.
Making extra payments for a total cost of $35,900 buy-in with closing costs. When we were staying, when we stay using points, I have been keeping track of what I would have paid for a hotel instead. This means in the moment, there are some times when I would have splurged on Animal Kingdom Lodge, and there are also times when I would have been there for the weekend, just more in the parks, and I probably would have stayed at the Holiday Inn. I've also sold points here and there as I did not use them.
He's actually being very realistic there, which most people don't do. He's just saying, I find this interesting because of where we're getting to is probably what not most people will expect. So he's keeping track of what he would have paid for a hotel. He says sometimes he would have put Animal Kingdom, and sometimes he was I was at the Polynesian, but if I went there and I didn't have points, I would have spent the Holiday Inn. So he's making a real life comparison of what he would have done in that moment, not just saying, oh, I am going to the Polynesian, I'm only paying $500 and I would have spent $2,500 here. You know what I'm saying? He's being very honest, which a lot of people say, well, if I had gone to the Polynesian, I would have spent this. Well, maybe you would not have. So he's being very, very honest with himself, which you think is going to save him, but let's go on.
I could go into my formulas, but I won't bore you with the nitty
Please
details.
Send them. I'm so interested.
This is where I believe I am. Total paid since 2015 in purchase and dues and lost opportunity, $49,000. What I think I've saved and what small profit was made selling points, $10,000, $10,800. So I should hopefully break even in about 50 years when it expires. This is why I would have a hard time recommending to other people, but I don't regret it for me though. Lost opportunity cost is a bit of a joke because every time you spend anything more than money on essentials, it's lost opportunity. But I do like to include it just so I can see what it is. I like that being a member has let me try all the different resorts. I love the theming above all else, even though it is, kind of tapered off in recent years. I like that I've been able to put up family and friends who joined me on a trip who probably could not afford to stay in those resorts. Another nice person
there, yeah.
But best of all, it does really push relaxation over my Disney trips. At a time when going to Disney is more complex than ever, Brian, it's nice to have in the back of your mind that there will be plenty more trips. You don't have to get into that new restaurant this time, or you can feel fine passing on a 90-minute Haunted Mansion line, especially when they're redoing the canopy. Just wanted to add my 2 cents to the fray that I imagine you are receiving. Really enjoyed the podcast, and we'll see you at Retro Magic in a few months. I'll bet you he's staying at the Polynesian
or the Holiday Inn.
Well, he's gonna say yeah. So it's that was a good one because we had the we had a nice mix there on that last one.
It is
back and forth. So it's funny because I didn't connect this. My first thought was like, $50,000. Good Lord, that's so much money. And I just happened to price for fun because we were looking up the cost of a new competition ski boat. 6 figures, easy, $90,000-$100,000 for that. And that's like, something where it's like you don't use that every day in Ohio, but this is a vacation. So it's interesting that, like he said, that lost opportunity on things that aren't essentials or whatever.
I mean, you're putting your money into different places and what you believe is going to give you the most amount of entertainment. Couple things
there is before you go totally into it, Todd. There's one thing I saw a couple of emails from people that had like 5 kids or 6 kids, and for them DVC made sense because once you get out of the standard 4 people in a room, you're having to buy 2 rooms in order to. So when I had my oldest is now out of the house, but when we had 5, it's like we didn't just book one hotel room for the 5 of us. We had to get 2 rooms. And that essentially
one for Hal and one for everybody else.
Exactly.
Right. And that essentially doubled our costs. So if it was, $350 at a moderate resort per night, it's like you're now paying $700 plus resort fees, plus this, that, and the other thing.
But not parking anymore, just so you're aware.
Not parking, yeah. So there were several use cases that people put out where they had larger families. And I said, oh, this totally makes sense because you're able to get, one of the things at like Kidani Village that holds 6 or 7 people,
right.
A much larger room than you would normally be able to. So I lump that in with people that say like, well, I was spending, a huge amount of money on a deluxe resort anyways. It was actually less expensive for me to get that same deluxe resort.
Sure.
Through DVC. So once you're into that class of resort or traveling with a bunch of people, I do think potentially DVC does make a lot more sense for people. Yep. And it's interesting seeing all the different things of like, oh, when we got tickets, it was really worth it. Not so much worth it now. If I do this, it's worth it to me. So
and there's all different things that have a different value proposition to each project. Now, to your point there, that makes a lot of sense. But because you are staying in a larger property, you need to buy more points because you can't stay as long as you could as if you were in a smaller room. So while it's not doubling your cost, but you might, doubling the room, but it gives opportunity to help people save money, but you might not be able to stay as long and you might have to have more points in the bank.
Yeah, I'm still a little confused about when you're buying points. Like, it seems so weird to me, and maybe this is because I'm a Florida resident, to go to Walt Disney World for a full week. And I know people from the UK routinely come over for 2 weeks at a time.
But like 12-hour flight, you're going to do that.
Yeah, I could not fathom staying there for 7 days. I feel like that would be way too long for me.
Let me give you my take on that because my thought over the years has completely changed. When I came down with my grandparents, the only thing that they knew was a weekly trip. And it was very relaxed. We're talking late 80s, mid 90s. We always went to Epcot 2-3 times. We'd hop to the Magic Kingdom. It was very relaxed, and the week went by fast because you just did the dining reservations you wanted to. You just, all the shit we've talked about, right? All the stuff we talked about. So then I, like you, how I fell away from the Disney Circle and the parks for a while. And when I went back with my son the first couple of times, we went with friends and we're like, we're going to show them everything we can do. And we went for a week because you had a small kid and you couldn't go from 8 to midnight. We were done at 6 o'clock and we were those people that pushed the strollers out. Some nights we stayed late, but we came into the parks late. And we were back at the rental house and people were having a glass of wine and the kids are snoozing. Different scenario. Now I think because I've experienced it many times, the desire and the trip is very different. It's not necessarily hitting the parks all the time. And to one of our listeners' point, if you miss Haunted Mansion, you miss Haunted Mansion. I've done it. I feel like at this point, like maybe many DVC people, they're in what we would call the bonus years. You've done it all. You've seen it all. You're ready to, if you miss something, it's not a big deal. So where am I now? 7 days? That's a lot of time. It really, really is. But if you're coming down there and you're not going to go on attractions and you're just going to sit at the resort, enjoy the pool, and talk to people like myself in the hot tub when they come in at 9 o'clock at night, maybe that's the thing. But I do agree. I 4 or 5 nights max, and at that point I'm ready to do something else or off property or go find a dinner somewhere. It's just, yeah. But I think DVC people who are going down there 2-3 times a year or even every other year, whatever, it's bonus time when it comes to the parks and everything.
Right. I think part of, for me, when we have gone for 3 or 4 days consecutively, we get home and I feel like I need to take a vacation.
Oh, absolutely.
From the vacation I was just on. Because the energy, the complexity of planning everything now, it's just like, it's absolutely no longer spontaneous and fun for us, and everything is busy, and you're just like, we're not that we didn't have a great time when we were there, because we obviously are still having a great time when we go, but I don't feel relaxed coming off of that vacation anymore.
No, the complexity is very different, especially you have the younger kids still. They want to do stuff. You want to see stuff. So now my vacations where they are busy I still come out tired, but I know where my limit is. And I came back from my vacation in Europe more energized than I did 5 nights at Disney World in April. So
I will say to you, like every parent with older kids, you forget you didn't have to remind your son to use the bathroom every 4 hours, Todd, in Europe, and all these things where it's I think it's just all age dependent and what you're, I always go back to when we went when I was a kid. I mean, we did one park day in a week, and we enjoyed Fort Wilderness. We did all the stuff that was the resort. That's my parents were spending X amount of dollars to drag a camper down there, and I think that was what you did. I mean, and we rode bikes, we did this stuff, we playground all day, the pool all day, that stuff you just enjoyed. And I mean, honestly, we sort of do that now. We don't plan, if we're there for a week, we don't plan more than 1, maybe 2 park days at most, and then we go elsewhere off property or whatever. But I don't know how those people do it. Did they go 8 days and they're at the park 7? Like, no way. There's no way I can manage that.
I mean, part of it is we've all got, I don't know what my count is at this point, because I don't think I'm over 100 days in the parks in my lifetime, because that's a lot of days if you don't live in Florida.
Yeah, I have to count it.
Even on my many trips there, I'm not sure that I've crossed the 100-day mark, but I've been there a lot. I've certainly been to the resort more than 100 days. But in terms of being in the parks, I do think there's a point you reach where there's a saturation point. And for us, what we do is, I know, JT, on the last trip, you wanted to ride Guardians, you wanted to ride Tron, you wanted to see the new stuff, and do some stuff with your kids, eat at a new place. But that's the big change in my approach over the last 10 years versus the first 30, 20 I was going to the parks on a regular basis. And I think when you're going with kids and it's a vacation with the kids, I mean, I used to go for weeks at a time. That was always my, it was a week. They were always week-long trips until, I started to make them 5-day trips, a little bit shorter, just because of available vacation time. When you're a younger worker, you don't have weeks and weeks to burn. So you take off fly down Thursday night and fly home Monday or Tuesday night. That way you're only taking a couple days off from work and you're jamming a trip in. But I think it's not, I mean, most of the trips now I would say are 5 to 7 days, and we have enough travel agents that listen to us that could probably tell us that. But certainly family trips are generally about a week. And if you consider that there's 4 parks, and that's the big shift that changed it from, you're talking about it not being relaxing now, but really, when they opened the 3rd and 4th parks, it was hard to do any of those parks in a day to begin with, except Disney MGM Studios when it opened. Animal Kingdom was very easy to do in a day when it opened, unless you wanted to sit and stare at monkeys on the trail for an hour. Like to kind of run through the attractions and stage shows. You could do most of it in the early years in a day. But, Epcot, Magic Kingdom, to kind of do everything, you needed a couple days at each. And, all of a sudden that's 2, 4, now you're up to 6 days, but hitting all the parks. And then there's a travel day, where you're either checking in or checking out, and maybe you're hitting the springs. So it was very easy to fill a week. But when it suddenly became 4 parks and all this other stuff going on, 3 water parks at one point, it was not a relaxing vacation anymore. It's for people with kids, for people going and attempting to complete and tick off all the boxes,
especially once
Jenny
in a
loves
lifetime.
Jasmine and Aladdin, so we're going to go see them. And Tommy's favorite thing is Buzz Lightyear, so we're going to the Toy Story Mania and Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger spin. And you're trying to tick off all these boxes, and that experience is for the parents as much as it's for the kids, because as you guys certainly know, your kids are little for a finite period of time, and then they reach an age where they don't really want to talk to you. and then you reach an age where you don't really want to talk to them. And
that's now, Brian. That's I'm just kidding.
And then you get into an adulthood area where one of two routes goes. Your kids and you either become friends or they're acquaintances you see at holidays. You know, I mean, these families out there, you know, one of the themes of these letters that I take away is, you know, there's the trips with your kids and then the interest in taking the trips with your grandkids. When they have kids of their own.
That's what I'm looking forward to. I'm, you know,
and
at some time.
Yeah, get on a Conlon, you know.
Well, yeah, give him a little. Just let's get through school first.
Okay? Get him out of high school, Brian.
Yeah, we won't even get him out.
I think in the end, you know, the theme that we've had from all of these folks is that for them and their families, it was the right fit. Some of them, it's still the right fit. Some of them, it was the right fit until it wasn't anymore, and they've moved on to other things. And it's a value because you have that option. Now, the big theme here in some of these letters tonight is that resale market has begun to decline the last 2 years as the market becomes saturated with people looking to exit as they're hitting 20 and 30 years in this program. And that is a great X factor because this argument that, oh, I could just get out of it at some point and it's a wash, may just get worse and worse.
Well, and if Disney continues to build new resorts every year and sells more new things, that continues to grow that pool of, you know, available inventory for people to buy from. That
and we don't forget that Disney controls the ability to resell. We mentioned that in the last episode, that written into the contracts is if, you know, the lower you go with these resale prices, Disney has the right of first refusal to come in and say, oh, you're selling it for $15 a point. Well, we're going to buy it from you for $15 a point instead of Todd McCartney buying it.
Exactly. Because what's interesting about it is if you're not going to go anymore and you want to resell, they want somebody in there that's going to go and spend money.
Yeah.
That's what you selling it, keeping it and selling it, fine. They're getting their maintenance and you're putting somebody in there that normally wouldn't be there. But if somebody is paying the dues or not going or, you know, wants to resell it, great. Let's put somebody in there. We'll get it back from them cheap. And we'll resell it and get somebody in there expensive.
But I really do want to say we asked for your feedback. I mean, I know I speak for everybody. We really appreciate everybody who took the time to write to us, the detail that you've put into it, the fact that you appreciated where, you know, our breakdown and what we knew and what we didn't know or what you thought we didn't know. You know, this was a really interesting, respectful exchange, and I appreciated everybody, even the guy that let off and accused us of making fun of people.
What's interesting too is I was listening back today of our original episode. We kind of, you know, did the episode to talk more about the history of it, and then we get into logistics and all that. And you know, we this episode is really not a historical based episode or anything, more just an exchange, which is interesting because it's, you know, going back to, you know, we saw people. Original buy-ins back in the old Key West. So there's some of the original members of the whole club. So
they're out there and listening.
They're some of the most satisfied customers.
That's right.
They got the biggest rooms, at least at Old Key West.
And the best deals.
The best deals, yeah. So here's what I've been thinking about is that, you know, how you mentioned common themes. And there are some, right? It's situational, right? Everybody's situation is different. The key for me and my opinion for my own use of DVC hasn't changed. It remains the same, and I really appreciate everybody writing in. It gave me a different look at where it works for those situations where it works, and that's great. If it works for you, that's fantastic. I think not necessarily I have trouble with it, but where I draw the line is that it has to be Disney. We mentioned the bubble. A lot of people mentioned the bubble. They want to be in the Disney bubble, and that's great. If that makes you feel great, and now those are the memories that you're, as I mentioned last month, that you're pre-buying, you know, and buying into and going down there and feeling comfortable. Great, except for the woman that was in the hot tub next to me. She was not comfortable going down there all the time. So that's great if you want to go there. And I think it really does make sense for some people's lives, some people's travel habits, where they are, what does it cost to get down there, whether they want to go into the parks. And we've heard a lot about park prices going up, hassle, cumbersome, you know, ticket prices, all that. For me, look, I don't need to go to Disney every year. Probably the reason I've gone as much as I have in the past 10 years is because of, you guys, this brotherhood that we have, and all of our listeners, and putting together the events. I've gone down there 6 times now as a result in the past 10 years, or 7 times just for events. And yes, I've gone there with family. So I totally agree with the people who want to travel there with family, travel there with people who haven't gone before. And that's where we filled it in with. And it was totally cool if we didn't get on Haunted Mansion. For me, though, I want to see new places and things. And the complexity of Walt Disney World, for those that I was just talking about, the complexity, and people were complaining about that. It is smartly planned by them because it causes you to want and have to come back, right? Because you didn't get to see everything for the newbies, right? Other people may have seen everything and they're chilling. And every person they get in there, as we mentioned, will spend. Like I said, for myself, I want to go see new places. I want to see new things. So my view remains the same. It's not for me. I want to have the freedom to go elsewhere. I like my money on variety, different investments, and flexibility. But more power to anybody out there who's getting the lifetime of a deal and a lifetime of memories at a place that they love the most, which is awesome. You can't ask for anything better than that. So I'm glad that people out there have found that. But if you are selling your DVC points, call us up. Maybe I'll buy some.
Todd loves to buy direct.
I just bought direct for Endo Alani. We did it. Nobody from this show, by the way, none of the listeners, I did it through another source, but got the person through another source, but none of the listeners wanted to give up their points.
Was it King Kamehameha? Did he set you up with that?
I bought direct for Retro Magic first time I did that, not through a broker.
This one's
kind of nerve-wracking, but
I know. I'm a little nervous. I made a little change to the contract, but we got it nailed down. So
what did you change?
I'm not talking on here about contracts.
Breadsticks.
Exactly. Unlimited breadsticks. So anyway, gentlemen, that's my take. It's not me. I'm glad it's not for me. I'm glad other people are getting great value out of it, but I want that, variety and flexibility. Okay.
I haven't stayed in a Disney resort now for 5 or 6 years, I think.
That's all going to change, Hal. We're getting you a penthouse room at the yacht club.
Yeah, except for maybe that one. I mean, other than the one, I think overall, and I don't know if this is worthy of the episode or not, as the prices of Disney resorts have increased to what I think is a ridiculous state, the value overall of staying there is down. So DVC, for those cases where I might be inclined to try to go and stay there, running DVC points probably makes a lot of sense. Buying into it probably doesn't, because I still think on the whole it's overpriced. But I think it's great that people have found something that works for them and have really enjoyed it. And I think that's all that anybody can ever ask for of anything out of life, is like, is there something that I like, and can I buy into that and enjoy it and have a good time doing it?
You make a really good point, how the people who are going for the once in a lifetime that becomes maybe every 3 or 4 year trip, every few years, maybe while their kids are young, DVC probably doesn't make sense for them. But as they have, not only has the prices of a Disney vacation, a Disney resort stay increased astronomically in the last 3 or 4 years. At the same time, the amenities have been cut, not just Magical Express, but, daily housekeeping and dozens of other things that have been chipped away at. It's been a 20-year process for the most part, but it's accelerated in the last 5 or so. So if you're going every year and staying for a week at a deluxe resort and paying rack rates, like just booking through Disney, you should absolutely own DVC. Like, I think that's one thing I would take away from this is, you should buy today. For anybody else, and frankly, moderate prices, you should probably take a hard look at it, because they're in what used to be the deluxe range. I mean, $300, $350 to stay Riverside.
It seems so insane to me that Caribbean Beach was the $69 a night value resort, and now it's middle to high tier.
And I remember
nothing has changed.
I remember the All-Stars being $59.
Right.
$59.
Caribbean Beach has exterior doors too.
But if you did, well, I mean, there's an example. The moderate resorts that had boat rentals that don't now, they took away all the little water sprite. Like, they don't want to offer that amenity at a moderate resort.
I mean, just the fact that I can't go to the beach anymore.
Right.
At
I was about to say
Wilderness and Contemporary and Polynesian, we're going to the beach and using that facility on top of the pool was something that you could, like, that's taken away another thing that I would have enjoyed doing if I was staying at those resorts.
Yeah.
Totally.
So, I mean, I think all those things taken in total, there's as many of our listeners that wrote to us, there's a strong case in certain scenarios where it makes sense. And obviously there are hundreds of thousands of people for whom it makes sense. I will be interested to see, 5 years from now where that resale market is. I'll also be interested to see, I'm not doing it, but somebody breaking down an inflation calculator on those average resort rental nights, from the rack rates, the rates that Disney generally offers. Because, I mean, I don't know what the percentage has been over the last 5 years, but am I wrong in saying it's 50%? I mean, I think they've gone up 50% in most of these places.
Easily.
And for all of that time, they were charging for parking until a couple months ago. On top of it, if you brought a car.
And then for a while there, you had to bring a car because there's no Magical Express.
There's no Magical Express.
Well.
Oh, well. If only we ran the world. Capital W.
Well, it was an interesting topic. I really liked reading all the emails and hearing perspective. I like hearing from anybody that owns anything, honestly, like whether it's car ownership. It's, we got a good chunk of reviews from people who do this and what they experienced and what they paid and what they thought. I think that's super interesting. I mean, it's not too often you get a firsthand listener account from this stuff. So these were super fun to read. And honestly, a lot of you I'm slightly jealous of because I'd love to have somebody inherit one to me or something. It'd be awesome, but
well, it'd just be neat to take your kids to the Polynesian every year or so. These places that I mean, I know it was out of reach for me until I was a single guy earning a good living, and we went through a period where we were staying at I stayed at the yacht club and I was staying at Polynesian. And
what's interesting though for me is the ones I really appeal to me, DVC. Like I really want to stay in the Fort Wilderness, the Wilderness Lodge cabin. And I want to stay at a treehouse. Like I want to, I don't know. I really want to do those. Like I'd like to stay. Just give me one night in like the 3-bedroom, 2-story Bay Lake Tower one.
And I have a friend who did that a few years ago. I mean, they had a weird point balance. And they ended up staying one night in one of the Copper Creek cabins there on the water at the Wilderness
Lodge. Just to
Lodge.
blow the point,
just
right?
a night, yeah. And then they moved to another place for another day, and but it was like this sweet spot in the schedule where there was one night available for far less than you would normally put in. And again, when you're not lugging kids around.
Sure.
And strollers and all the paraphernalia that goes with traveling with kids, including the kids themselves. It's easier to do to just be like, all right, we're just here for the night, just take out what you need. But
they've got some sweet accommodations that are definitely only available to a select few. That's for sure.
Stuck with us till the end here of this non-traditional topic, non-history topic for us. We appreciate it. Next month, we will return to a historical topic in the parks, not resorts. We'll be in a park next month. And that'll be the last episode prior to Retro Magic.
Can't wait.
September 30th, October 1. And by the time this episode comes out, it just might be sold out. But if not, head on over to retromagic.org and see if you can snag one of the last tickets, because very few remain.
And just because it's the last ticket doesn't mean you have a bad seat. There is no bad seat at this event.
Nope. A lot of new exciting things, a lot of surprises. So
there is no discount, however, for DVC members. Just so all know, everybody
there was
pays
until
the same
2011,
price.
wasn't
exactly.
that? There was until the big change, the big shakeup.
All right. Well, as always, thank you to all of our listeners. We did mention Retro Magic. This will hit the airwaves. There might or may not be some seats left, but head over to retromagic.org to make your donation and reserve yourself a seat for our event September 30th and October 1st, 2023. Do we have any like T-shirts coming up that like kind of show the growth chart maybe of resale value, any type of amortization table on the back or anything like that?
We've been so focused on all the great stuff that you're going to get as part of coming to Retro Magic, and we're not going to say what that stuff is, but
it's pretty cool.
Todd and I have been hard at work. If you remember last year, we had the floaty pens that we gave away. We had, I'm trying to think what the
ornament set.
That's right, the ornament set. So we have been hard at work getting new, different things made, which I think y'all are gonna love.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that's been our big push, trying to get everything shipped off to be made. So it's going to be in your hot little hands come September 1st.
But if you got a suggestion of a DVC related shirt that you'd like Hal to produce, just shoot us an email or call us at 978-71-RETRO.
We could do just a shirt where you fill in, I am a DVC owner at blank. I own blank points. I spent blank and I've spent this many nights. Just fill it in. Yeah.
I think I'm going to make a Todd McCartney DVC Hot Club tub.
It's just going to be a shirt that has the DVC logo. Says, yes, it was worth it, Todd.
You should make one, after the event, one of the forgotten resorts, like the, just make up your own logo for the Times Square one or something.
That's a great idea. We should find the one
the
Times
never
Square
built. And what was
Times Square, Newport Beach,
Silver Spring? Was it? No,
you could say coming soon or something. That type of thing.
With unique access to the new Africa Pavilion at Epcot. So
Equator, yeah.
All right. Well, that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening. As always, we appreciate your feedback. You can send us any comments at podcast@retrowdw.com. And as always, if you can, give us a shout out in iTunes or Google Play or wherever your favorite podcasting app lives. Thank you very much. We'll be back next month with a new topic. And until then, Brian, take us out.
Follow the Lake Buena Vista Historical Society on Twitter and Instagram at LBV History and on the web at lbvhistory.org. For all things Retro Disney World, including exclusive merchandise, visit us on the web at retrowdw.com and on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at RetroWDW. And follow our hosts, Todd McCartney, on Twitter at WDWMS, Hal Bowers on Twitter and Instagram at GoAwayGreen, JT Cougar on Twitter at LS1JT and on YouTube at Rubber City Motoring and on the web at rubbercitymotoring.com. And you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Brian P. Miles. Retro Disney World is the monthly podcast of the Lake Buena Vista Historical Society, a nonpartisan, nonprofit, tax-exempt 501c3 organization and is not affiliated in any way with the Walt Disney Corporation or any of its subsidiary or affiliated entities.
The Disney Vacation Club is an exciting way to give yourself and those you love once-in-a-lifetime vacations every year. For more information, call us at 1-800-800-9100.